So hello and welcome to this video. We shall be looking at the cascading style sheets, that is CSS, and how to use it on our HTML. Remember, when you have with HTML, you are able to write a web page, including the various elements, the headings, the paragraph, images, tables, forms, list. But these elements are not usually styled, so you need to learn about CSS to be able to style them. That is to put, like if it's a text, you have different colors, different layouts, whether you want it to be centered or on the left. So you need to learn the CSS and how to include it in our HTML so that you can be able to style our elements. And as I have said, CSS stands for cascading style sheets. It's a language that you are supposed to understand so that you can be able to apply it on your web pages to make them attractive and very useful to the visitors or the users of your website. So cascading refers to how style rules are applied to the page elements. So let's just jump in and see how we should be able to, or how we should apply the CSS to our HTML. Okay. And there are usually 3 ways to add CSS to our HTML page. So for instance, if I have a HTML page, let me have a HTML page here. So you see this is an HTML page, yes, a doc type, and on the header part you put our title. Let's say it's called my page, and the body part, let's say you have a paragraph, and I say this is my first paragraph. I put another paragraph. I just want to demonstrate how we use this. This is my second paragraph. This is my second paragraph, and this is my third. This is my third paragraph. So you have those you have the 3 paragraphs, and you save this page. You can save it as my first page. This should be .html. Okay. I add something like that, so I can just replace it, and I click OK. I save it. So once I save it, if you preview this page, yeah, like on a browser, just some 3 that is text or the paragraph. This is my first paragraph, this is my second paragraph, this is my third paragraph. So by default, the page is usually starts from the left downwards, the way you are, just the way you are writing them on the code that is on the editor. That's how they follow each other. But now you want to include some styling. Either you want to change the font, like you want to bold it, you want to put it at the center or on the right. Now that when you have to use CSS. Okay. There are various CSS elements, or there are various ways you can be able to style our elements, as we will be able to see. But first we need to know how you are supposed to include the CSS now on the web page, yeah, on the page that we have created. And there are 3 ways to add CSS to HTML page. One is inline, that is by using style attribute inside HTML elements. The other way is internal, internal CSS, whereby you use a style element in the head section of the web page. Okay. And the third is external, whereby now you have an CSS file that is external. It's not part of that text. It's not part of the HTML page. It's just outside as a standalone CSS file, but you call it, or there is a way you link it to this document now, so that now the styles that you have you have specified on that CSS file can be applied on this HTML page. The external one is very common and very useful because you can be able to style very many pages with your just one CSS file. So you'll be able to understand how it works, and is the one that is very much used for easy understanding of your code, and also it's very much used, the external one. But you shall look at each so that you'll be able to understand. You look at each of the three ways that you are able to add our CSS. So first we'll start with the inline CSS, and we say that inline CSS is used to apply a unique style to a single HTML element. Remember, this one just applies to a single HTML element. An inline CSS uses the style attribute of an HTML element. For example, now in this our page, we have the P, that is the paragraph or the P element. Let's say you want to style this particular P, the first one. We'll have the style, we put is equal to, and we put the quote, style is equal to, and now I can bring in the CSS inside it there. Okay, let's say you have the color is red. So if you save that, you shall see the output for that. Let's refresh this. You see, I've just changed the color of the first paragraph to become red by just having this kind of an attribute, style is equal to color red. Okay, you can even have something else like font weight, and put it bold. Okay, and save. Once we save, if we refresh this page, you find that this paragraph now is bolded. Okay, that's now how it works. That's how that is inline CSS works. That's how inline CSS works. We just style a single element by including this style is equal to, you put double quotes, and in there, in between the quotes, you include your CSS. Okay, there are various elements of the CSS, like the color, the background color, and all that. You can even have like we add the color which describes the text color. You can have the background, can have the background, either background color, let's say yellow. Let's see if it is changed. And you find that under that first paragraph you have a background color yellow. Okay, so that is part of the CSS that you can be able to style a single element using the inline CSS if you wanted to style just a single element. You learn more about this if you visit. I'll give you a resource where you can just go and see how we style various elements, but I wanted you to know how now you'll be able to use them on your HTML. There are various, whatever, like the background, the color, the font, the font family, the font size, and all that. So basically that's how we include our CSS, inline CSS. Okay, inline CSS. Next we look at how we include internally. And on internal CSS, an internal CSS is used to define a style for a single HTML page. Remember, for inline it was for a single element, but for internal it's for a page. Okay, for a particular HTML page, and it is defined in the head section of the HTML page. So on the head section is where you put in your styling. That is what you call the internal CSS. So for example, let me just delete this inline. Let me delete this inline CSS that I had put there. So on this type, on the head section, in between the head tag, yeah, the opening and the closing head tag, we put this, we put style, yeah, opening and closing, style, style tag. It's a style tag. On that style tag, in between it, and remember it is on the head section, in between the head section of that page, you put the style there, and in between the style tags, you put your CSS code or the CSS styling that you want to apply. Let's, for instance, I want to style the body. You can style the whole body of the element of the body and use these curly braces. Yeah, you can have the background, and decide the body should have a background color. Yes, this cyan is a color, and I can also style my paragraphs. The piece. Remember, CSS is not case sensitive, so P capital or small will mean the same thing. Yeah, it's not case sensitive like some languages are. So if I write P or even I write the small p, just the same. So for P, I want them to have a color. Let me use, the color should be blue. Let me use color blue. Then font weight, let it be italic. Okay, and I save. If we refresh this page, you can see the whole body now. the body is has a background color cyan, and our paragraphs have changed now the color. The text for the color for the text on our paragraph is blue. Okay, so you find that you are affecting now the whole page. You can define everything about the elements that you have, the various elements you have under the page. You can style them on this part. This is now what we call the internal CSS, whereby now it's styling the particular HTML page. Okay, yeah, you can have as many as you can. If you have some other elements here like a div or a table or something, you can include them in between. As I said, the internal include the CSS code in between the head section of the HTML page, and that's how it works. Yeah, so next we go to the external CSS, and external CSS is the most commonly used. An external CSS is the most commonly used, and is used to define the style for many HTML pages. So it means that you can have a single CSS file that is styling many HTML pages, and this one is very much useful when you are developing a website that has many pages. You can have a single CSS page that is styling very many pages of the HTML. So to be able to use the external CSS, as I have said, you'll just have to write a CSS file on its own and include it on your HTML page. So for this example, so you have this HTML page, and I create a CSS file. Let me save it with some name, like I call it my styling, my styling dot css. It's a css file. Now how do I call it now? Let me even remove this, the internal css. Let me remove the internal css on that page. And as I have said, the file is linked to an HTML document with a link tag. Okay, this a tag we call link, and in between that link tag is where you specify where that CSS file is and that it can be called. Yeah, to use an external style sheet, add a link to its head section of the HTML page. So you have this link rel style sheet href whatever styles.css. Okay, so as I have said that we will be using a link tag to call our or to link our the external CSS to our HTML page. So on this part of the head section, we have a link. Okay, and the reference rel is a style sheet, and here is specify the name of our CSS. As I called it my styling dot css. Okay, my styling, they are on the same folder where you have stored it. But if they are not on the same folder, ensure that you include the whole path to where that CSS file is located. But if they are on the same folder, just need to write the name of the CSS file. Okay, like in my case, they are on the same folder where I have stored them. That is my styling.css, and then my first page, that is my HTML document or my HTML page, and the CSS file, they are on the same folder. So I just write the name of the file here. And on this now, I should include my CSS here on this, and it should include any HTML tags on this, otherwise it will not work. Just need to put purely CSS on this, and it should work well. So for instance, in this, if I describe my P, remember P is the paragraph. I want to style the paragraph, and I say the color. So my color should be, the color of my paragraph should be red, and the font width, we have some suggestion on this. Font width, let's say it should be bold. Okay, you can even include text declaration or even a background you can put, but for the body, let me style the body of the HTML page, and I choose background. As the background, it will be include an image that I wanted background color. Let's say to be, this time to be, let's say yellow. Okay, let's try to refresh our page, and you see that you have a paragraphs, they are red, and the background is now yellow, and it's getting this style from this external CSS file. Okay, and you have just linked it by using this tag link. Yeah, you specify the type of you see it's a style sheet, that now the processor of the HTML understands the type of file that is being linked, and the name of the CSS file. And as I said, if they are not located on the same folder, you need to specify the path the full path to where that CSS file is located or stored. Okay, so that is how you do it. And remember, now if you have described various styles for various pages, you just need, for every page, HTML page you create, you include this link tag. Okay, link tag to that CSS file, and it should work for multiple web pages. So you can have a single CSS file styling many HTML pages, and that is very, very useful in the real world coding, or when you are developing you have a large project where it has many web pages. You don't need to include CSS internally. Yeah, it can even affect the code readability. We are told that the external CSS is the most common method of adding CSS to HTML, since one external style sheet or one CSS file can describe the styles for multiple HTML elements. Okay, so that is it for that, how to include them. Now the other big tricky part with the CSS that you need to know is the selectors. We have seen how we include the CSS into our HTML, that is through inline, internal, and the external. That is it. So for CSS selectors, a CSS selector selects the HTML element you want to style. So for example, you find that basically, to be able to specify which element you are styling, you can just write the name of the element, but that has an impact, because for instance, I have many paragraphs, and when I write the P, it will style all of them, but sometimes I want to style just one. So what do I do? Yeah, so we need to learn the selectors to be able to select either many elements that want to pick that particular style, or just one. So we need to understand that. And there are several selectors in CSS. One is element selector, which you have used because you have been specifying the name of the element, that is either a P or a div or a table or a body. It just styles all other elements that are named by that name. You can use an ID selector. You can also use a class and a universal selector, and I'll be explaining what each does. Okay, what each, when can we use each of them, and you'll be able to understand some is more convenient than others, especially on the ID and the class. They are very much used, ID and the class. So we start with the, of course, I will not dive much into the element selector because we have been using it. Element selector is whereby you write the name of the element, like either a P or a div or a table, and then you put these curly braces, and in between the curly braces you put the styles, the CSS, to define that what will those elements be looking like. For instance, the text align, center, the color, red. So for instance, if, let me even remove this background, I have this, and I have color red, and it's bold, and I can even add a text align, either to align it at the center, text align, let's see, center. Okay, so if I run, if I refresh this page, you find that my paragraphs are now centered. Okay, but because I'm using the element tag or the element selector, it's doing it for the elements that are called paragraph, or the P, with the P tag. So here all the P elements on the page will be center aligned and all that, and will be red, just like I've shown you. But in some instances you want to style just one. Okay, So that's when we advance now to the selector we call the ID selector. Okay, the ID selector of the CSS. And for the ID selector, we use an ID attribute for an HTML element to select a specific element. The ID of an element is unique within a page, so the ID selector is used to select one unique element. Yeah, to select an element with a specific ID, write hash followed by the ID of the element. Okay, so you have said that for the ID selector you'll be able to select a specific element to style. So in this you use an ID attribute, like you put an ID here equals, let me call it first, let me give it a name, just give it any name that you remember. First P, that's the idea of that, and this one can be second P. Okay, that's an ID. You just give it those two. And now on the CSS instead of putting the P, I just write, let's say I want to style the first paragraph, I write the name of the ID. I've called it first P. Okay, but you start with hash for the ID. When you use ID, make sure that you start with hash. Okay, so hash first P, yeah, it should style only the ID, the element with that ID, first P. Okay, the others will not be styled. And we can run, or we can refresh our page. You see if that is true. Is it true? Yes, we can see that it's only the first paragraph that is styled, that is at the center, and it is red and bolded. The others have not been touched. So if you want to style the second element only, we call this, we can style the second paragraph, second P, and if we refresh our page, we find that we have only styled the second paragraph. The others are not being styled. So that one, the ID selector is used to style a single element. Okay, and you are unique, because ID should be unique. So that is useful in some instances. Now you want to look at the next selector. Next selector, and before you go to the next selector, an ID name cannot start with a number. Okay, so when you are giving the name of the ID, don't start with a number. Make sure that it's an alphabet. And when you are writing them on the CSS, start with hash, then the ID name, the name of that ID, and you are ready to style the element. Okay, this particular element. Next we have a class selector. A class selector selects HTML elements with a specific class attribute. To select elements with a specific class, write a period character followed by the class name. Okay, so for the class, here now you want to style some elements, many elements of a particular class, and the class we also specify it as an attribute. So instead of the ID, you write class is equal to, let's say this class is called, we call it a name, para. It's a class that is called para, and let's also this second paragraph also belong to that class. Okay, this is para, but you can have the third paragraph, let it belong to another class. Okay, that's like para 2. And let's say you have 4 paragraphs. This one's now This one is the fourth. So for instance, let's take paragraph 1 and 2. First and second, they are in the class para, and third and fourth, they are in para 2. Now you want to style elements that are associated with the class para on our CSS. Remember, here I'm using the external CSS. I'll come and instead of now using hash is for the ID when you want to style an ID, yeah? But when you want to style a class, use dot. Okay, dot alafu the or dot then the name of that class. Okay, dot para is what I want, and for para 2 I want to have a different color. Let's say color blue, and the font weight let it be italic. I want you to see the difference. And the line, let it be right. Okay, can be right. Left, center, or left. Let it be left. So you have the two classes. Remember, they are classes of paragraphs. So you want to see whether there will be a difference in the two. And you see that there is a difference, and our styles have been applied. For the first and second paragraph, they have been styled to red and they are centered. For the third and fourth, they are on the left and they are blue. I don't know if the italics has been applied or I'm missing something. Italics. But basically, the styling and all that, you can look at it later. All that is the specifics of the font width and all that. I'll be able to look at them, particularly on the W3 schools, where I will refer to you to for further learning. I just wanted to pass on some concepts. Okay, some concept on how to include and how to use the various selectors. So I can have background color to be. For that, if we refresh our page, you have that. So that's how you are able to use the class selector. Okay, and the class selector is used to style elements of a particular class. There can be many elements, and that is also very useful when you want to style some in this way and the others in that way, even if they are of the same type of elements. Like the piece, you can decide the paragraphs should be different, to have different stylings. You can use this class selector. Very useful. Okay, so for the universal, use a star universal. That is it selects all each elements on the page. Okay, so like if I put a star and then I open the curly braces, text align center and everything, the buff styling will affect every element, HTML element on the page. So it's not much commonly used, but you can use it to style every element under that page. Every element is whether it's a body, whether it's a paragraph, whether it's a div, it will take. It will affect every element. The star is a universal selector. It selects everything. Okay, so that is it. You'll be able to learn how to add HTML, that is CSS, to HTML, the various way, the inline, the internal and the external, and you will be able to see the various selectors for the CSS, so that you can be able to style be able to see the element selector, the ID selector, the class selector, and the universal selector and their uses. So you can find, you find when it is convenient to use one and not the other, and you decide on which one to use. Also, that one applies to when you decide to use the inline CSS, or when you decide to use the internal CSS and the external CSS. And that is it for CSS. Now, to be able to see the various stylings for various elements, I will refer to you to go to w3schools.com, and this is the website. Yeah, W3schools has handles in very many languages, including the CSS. You can be able to see how you can be able to style the text, the tables, the forms. There are very many stylings that are there. Okay, like the selectors we have talked about, they are there, and the syntax. You can be able to see the syntax on why. I know some are wondering why I'm using like the opening braces, the curly braces, when I'm specifying my CSS. You learn the syntax on how to use and how to apply the CSS. And for the text, yeah, the formatting, you can be able to see the colors, yeah, the background color that I've been using, yeah, very many things that, and the alignment, like I added the text alignment, center, yeah, left, right, right, yeah, all that. You can be able to learn more about them. I may not be able to teach how we style every element. There are various stylings, even the padding, yeah, all that, padding top, padding right. Just learn them. I'm just referring you to the W3 schools. You find the section of the CSS, and you'll be able to learn more. Okay, so just visit this. And please continue practicing, because it's through practice that you'll be able to understand how these things work. So thank you, and let's wait to see what we'll have next in our next video. Thank you.